Hey, welcome once again to my podcast that doesn't have a name yet. So I just call it Jose Rosado's podcast. Today I have my friend from Twitter, Dr. Yusef. Man, I'm so glad to have you over here because I was on your podcast a couple of months ago, I guess, and I really enjoyed the conversation. But now today you are the victim, not me. And I have so many questions about your business, about how you get clients, about how to monetize your skills. That in your case, you're a fitness trainer, you're a doctor, and how to use fitness to increase your performance at work and make more money. Because at the end of the day, more performance correlates to a better lifestyle and having more energy to produce and create and just make the best out of each day. So tell me a little bit about yourself so people understand who I'm talking to.
100%, man. I appreciate you having me on as the victim for today's podcast. I'm definitely going to have to start using the word victim for future invites for guests on that podcast. So, yeah, my name's Yusef. I am currently working as a doctor and as a coach for Propane Fitness, as one half of the machine that is Propane, and my business partner and myself, so Johnny. We help people to get leaner, bigger, stronger, perform better, but with the minimum amount of fuss and minimum disruption in their lives. And over the last few years as well, we started to get, kind of through a business accident, which we can talk about, we started to get a lot more organic inquiries from other coaches and other PTs that were looking to bring their business online and use some of the systems that we used to scale things to the point that we're at now. And so that's kind of become another arm of the business, which we now help people to do the same thing and scale their coaching offering, scale their ability to get people a result and take that online.
Beautiful. I'm trying out new software. So if you see me like stumbling upon all of these stuff, it just happens so that I'm just clicking around. So tell me a little bit about how did you go from, just stumbling into that kind of business to actually building a business? What's the process of doing that?
Yeah, so I think, and this is really we did everything wrong for the first. So we started Propane Fitness back in 2008, 2009, and I think we managed to systematically make every possible mistake that you can make in online business.
Can you tell me some of those mistakes?
Oh man, so it started with, do you want to hear the fitness mistakes or the business mistakes? Because we've got a whole encyclopedia.
All of them,
okay.
Man. I'll clip them and I'll just put it online to shame you.
Honestly, it really is, it's terrible. So back in the day, like Johnny and I had basically been drinking the Kool-Aid. So from a fitness perspective, we were fresh-faced 18, 19-year-olds reading too much T-Nation, all this kind of stuff about like, oh, you always got to squat ass to grass, and if your back hurts, you're just being a pussy, and that kind of that numbness and tingling sensation you're getting down the back of your leg and inability to hold in your wee. That's just DOMS. It's fine. Just keep deadlifting through it, all that kind of thing. And so we ended up following that kind of approach, and I gained. Did you do kilograms or pounds?
I do pounds here.
Pounds. Okay, so I gained 30 kilograms, which is about 70 or 80
70 pounds, yeah.
In 3 months. And this was from just going hard in on the whole kind of bulking hype. I was drinking a pint of cream before bed, a pint of double cream, a glass of olive oil between meals. I was just like absolutely... I was putting like cheesecake and tuna in the blender. Like it was awful. And the whole time I was just thinking, well, this is all muscle because my t-shirts were tighter. And it was only looking back that I was like, man, like muscle gain is rate limited. And so we learned that the hard way, along with then kind of doing every kind of commercial crash diet and alternate day fasting and all these.
Did you ever, sorry I interrupted you, but did you ever like blend spaghetti and drink this spaghetti?
I didn't do spaghetti actually. That's
in Dominican Republic, people do that. They blend the spaghetti and they just drink that shit down, man. Horrible.
The thing is that like carbs are so nice and so palatable and easy to eat that out of all the foods you could blend, I feel like spaghetti doesn't. It's unnecessary. That's a senseless killing of the poor spaghettis.
Italians are right now. How do you say this? Like dead Italians are like rumbling in their graves.
Yeah, exactly.
Hearing this podcast.
In fact, there's a great video of Gordon Ramsay watching people doing like butchering certain recipes. It's like a series of like Gordon Ramsay reacts, and I think it's just his daughter winding him up, where she'll like find the most disgusting recipe on TikTok and make her dad watch it and film him. And yeah, it's stuff like people taking those like spaghetti hoops and putting it into like a cupcake and baking them, and then putting like sprinkles on top and stuff. And he's just like, oh, this is awful. So yeah, I guess you can really squeeze the lemon with some mad food choices. But yeah, so in terms of fitness, basically that we did a lot of these things. I ended up training through injury. I basically blew my L5S1 disc like out on the back of the wall. Had to like peel it off. Like so a lot of the mistakes and a lot of the content that we ended up creating was born out of trying to save people from making the same mistakes. And I think in general, in any business, if you're creating content, it's all like writing about your own mistakes and coming from a place of like, I just don't want you to have to go through the same problems. It comes across as so much more authentic. It's so much more value adding because you're talking to you 5 years ago, and you know all of the struggles that kind of person had. And I know we were talking about this on our last podcast as well, about knowing your audience really well. So I guess one of the and that brings us on to the mistake that we made that's kind of turned into the new arm for the business, which was that although we were trying to write for young professionals who were interested in fitness, because Johnny and I are kind of weirdos, and we got really deep into the weeds of all these kind of extreme training and diet experiments, and we'd write at length about metabolism of leucine and the fractional synthetic rate of proteins and stuff that no one cares about in the daily in daily life. Only other personal trainers and other coaches care about that stuff. And so accidentally, our audience tended to become mostly other coaches, and they were more interested in the processes that we were using to run the business rather than as well as the fitness stuff too. So that's how kind of by accident we ended up forming a niche that we didn't intend to serve in the first place.
Coaching personal trainers on how to coach and how to get clients online, right?
That's it.
Beautiful, man. Don't you just love when this kind of serendipitous events just happens and you can like actually leverage them to make an income or to change your life or build a business such as the one that you built?
Yeah, it was kind of a happy accident in the end. So I'm glad things turned out as they did.
Beautiful. By the way, what's that rock behind you? What's that?
So I got a YouTube hater the other day about that rock. It's a Himalayan salt lamp, and someone commented being like, "There's no way that I would ever trust someone with a Himalayan salt lamp in their room," because he kind of he assumed that I got it for some kind of health reason to
woo stuff.
Blocking the negative ions, and to be honest, I just think it looks nice, but
it looks beautiful, man. I like it. I like it. Dude, it's crazy what people invent in their minds once they see something. In your mind, it's just a pretty light. In his mind, it's like, oh, this guy believes in astro things of changing your astros and changing the negativity of your space and all of that bullshit. So, aside that, that was just a pretty aside point. You talked about coaching coaches on how to find clients and how to sell their services and how to build a business similar to yours, right? But for them to teach others how to train, okay? What would you say is the process that someone who is thinking of doing something similar to that, of coaching other people's on fitness training, how would you tell them to get started?
there's four main components to coaching online. So there's getting customers, so just generating the leads. There's then closing those sales, so taking people who are aware of you and making sure and interested in your service, and actually making sure that they are a good fit for you, and selling them a relevant product that is going to bring them to their goal. And then there's the coaching aspects, there's the delivery, and then there's all of the ancillary stuff. There's the software and the productivity and the kind of content creation and all that kind of stuff too. And that's the kind of the foundational underpinning of your online presence. A lot of people are very good at one of those things, and they are absolutely terrible at others. So you might have the typical Instagram influencer who is really good at the like photography and framing themselves like on a beach in Bali, like oiled up, doing exercises, and they've got 2 million followers. They're great at generating leads, but they can't close sales. And it becomes very obvious because you see the pattern is the business model always switches to promoting some slimming tea or some laxative or something like that, because they're not, they've generated the interest, but they're not able to actually convert that interest into something relevant. Equally, you can also get people who are very good at stage 1 and 2. They can get the interest, they can convert the sales, but they don't have systems in place to coach those people, and things break down. And that's what those are the kind of people that you see that they're great at getting people in through the door, but they've not thought about how they're actually going to serve them. They've got 100 people sat in their restaurant, and they've got one poor bloke in the kitchen who's like desperately trying to fry an egg, and he's struggling because everyone's hungry. So that's where, and that's what generates complaints as well, because you then you've not delivered on your service. And then also you've got all of the other challenges that I think we spoke a little bit about last time, which is if you're self-employed, you're working from home, there's no boss over your shoulder like making sure that you're doing the work, and so productivity becomes a real bottleneck. And I don't think it's a fluffy subject. I think it's something that's truly, when we don't have that social accountability of being in an office or something, there's no downside, there's no recourse to just spending your entire day on Pornhub. So you have to have systems in place to make sure that you do the work and you stay accountable and that you deliver the results.
Beautiful, and that makes so much sense. Trying to figure out, like in your case, when someone new joins your coaching, trying to figure out what they are lacking, so you can actually serve them in what they're lacking. For example, I'm working with a personal trainer. I'm teaching him like how to drive leads, because he has like incredible sales skills, like insane sales skills. But he was lacking the how to generate leads and how to automate some of these processes. And right now he's crushing it, because he has been able to generate more leads, which will turn out into new sales, because he's very good at sales. One of the few people that I've coached that actually is like incredibly good at sales, and I'm just enjoying working with him, because there's something about fitness trainers, because I've worked with many others with their own coaching and helping them automate some stuff. You guys are like a never-ending source of energy. It's like insane the amount of energy you guys have. It's like, dude, I need you to do this by, I don't know, next week. A day passes, 24 hours later, oh, here it is. It's done.
Yeah.
So it actually makes me like, oh shit, I need to double down on my efforts, and it keeps me on the edge of my ability to coach others. So I enjoy working with you guys, man. It's so fun.
That's awesome about your client as well. Like, and I think it's a great problem to have, isn't it? Where someone's good at converting sales, but they don't have the lead flow like that. What a brilliant thing, because then as soon as you just drop some people in the top of the funnel, everything works nicely.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. It's so beautiful once you start seeing these students of yours winning. Would you mind sharing some of the wins that some of your students have been able to achieve with your system?
Sure. So in terms of the personal training stuff, like particularly the pandemic has absolutely like whipped the rug out from underneath a lot of people who were running gyms or doing in-person PT stuff. And it's often the guys who have this ability to quickly switch and to high agency. They're able to react to the circumstances that they find and say, okay, I'm going to pivot to this. Or they have an existing online presence that they're just not fully leveraging. These are the guys that have completely smashed it during the pandemic, and a lot of the guys we're working with are no longer going back to working in gyms because they've doubled or tripled their income from online coaching, to the point where they say, well, now I've achieved this freedom of location and freedom of time and serving more people, that from a satisfaction level, I'm also able to help more people transform their physiques. Then they're faced with a choice of, well, if you still have a passion for individual one-on-one training, then, you can always keep a couple of boutique clients that you just train for fun, basically. But then you're coming at that from a position of choice, because you don't have to turn up at 5 a.m. to do your first training sessions and spend hours in the gym. So we typically see people go from full-time personal trainer or full-time office job outside of the industry and skip the in-person stuff if that's not what they're interested in, to making between, say, $3,000 and $10,000 a month from online coaching. So it certainly is possible. I should say that's because there's a lot of like six-figure Fit Pro type coaches online, and a lot of them will make big claims about the numbers and kind of unrealistic results that people can get. I should say that like the guys who are making 10 grand a month, it doesn't happen overnight. Like they have to put in the work, and this is done from kind of building the systems, and then slowly over time it gains momentum, and then it's at a point where it's actually difficult to stop that kind of cash coming in.
Once you make money, your first dollar online, it's like intoxicating, man. You just fall in love with that source of income, like right there. Because 10 years ago, who would have thought of like online fitness training? Nobody, man. Well, let's say 15 years ago, because we now have YouTube and stuff like that. But who would have thought about that? Who would have thought of paying $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month to get trained online? Because there's some fitness coaches that charge like a lot of money per month to train you through a camera.
Yeah, it's a strange concept. And
hey, what's up?
We are back.
Damn, man. Third world countries suck.
Yeah, this is one of the hidden downsides of the digital nomad lifestyle, isn't it?
Yeah, man. Thing is that I've been lazy and I have not bought one of these. There's something we call an inverter. That's not the correct translation. We just call it inverter. It's like what Elon Musk sells, that you just put it on the wall and it has like a battery pack. And if there's like some blackout, the battery pack will just chime in and lights will not go out. So I need to buy one of those, because we have an emergency generator, but it takes a couple of seconds to get in, and everything shuts down.
Wind it up and
no, it's automatic. I live in an apartment building that has one of these fancy generators that does that automatically, so I don't have to move from here. So that's a good thing of making good enough money in a third world country. You can afford that kind of things.
So that aside, huge, yeah.
What we were talking about, I lost my train of thought because screw it. I want to talk about performance, man. I want to talk about how fitness.
Oh yeah. You were talking about energy. People having high energy when you're working with them.
And the energy just went away here. So let's talk about that, because it's something that I don't know if people actually think about that. But when you are in good shape, and I'm not talking about being lean, just like not being fat, because there's some guys that are like lanky, that it's long limbs, but no body fat, but they're like really weak. So I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like being in great health, not only in your body, but also in your mindset, because it's all correlated. So I would like to talk about how that influences your performance and how much of a difference can that make in your day-to-day life, in business, in your love relationships, and in the way that you also love yourself. because
100%.
when you look better, you like to look you like yourself more.
Yeah, this is massive, man. There's so many elements to this. I mean, obviously, like the first thing, intuitively, this is the machine that you're operating in, and so
Yep.
we have to take care of it. Like it's just, I think it's a no-brainer, and it's a disrespect to your body, to your humanity, to just like spaff it away on Netflix and burgers. The thing that really kind of the sobering reminder for that is when I see patients day to day that have disabilities or have kind of diseases that are completely not of their own fault, completely non-lifestyle related diseases, and that they would kill for the idea of just being able to go for a run, or being able to swim in a river, or being able to express and explore their body to the limits that it would naturally be capable of. And so it's almost kind of insulting to not take advantage of that amazing blessing that we have. Now, philosophically, and for the purpose, even in medical training, for example, we separate the mind from the body. We see them as two separate entities and two separate strands. And that's all done because we're working on the kind of Cartesian model of mind is this like separate thing that's floating in space, and then body is something completely separate. But in reality, there is no separation. The mind is in the body, and the body is in the mind. There's no anatomical point where mind stops or consciousness stops and body begins. And so it's completely the wrong way to look at it from a performance perspective, to say, oh, well, if I sit down and I do the work and I work really hard, then I don't need to take care of my body, because it's one and the same thing, and it's going to influence your ability to focus, your ability to perform, your fatigue, your energy levels, your creativity, all of that stuff. So yeah, I totally agree. And we had a chat with Dan Go, Fit Founder on Twitter, about this a few months ago as well, and he sees this consistently. So his niche is tech CEOs and kind of founders and executives.
High performing guys.
Yeah, and these are all, quite often, he says, high performing guys in their field, but sometimes they've gone so far down the startup rabbit hole that they've let their body completely fall to the wayside, and they're starting to notice their performance declining as well. And once they kick their body back into gear, everything else levels up too. And I'm a firm believer, I think I know you are as well, of the way that you approach one thing is reflected in how everything else is manifested in your life. And there's no separation between
more or less.
So there's no separation between, if you're putting in the effort and you're putting in the time with your body, it's going to be reflected in other ways, obviously, unless you kind of compartmentalize your life too much.
Yep. So for example, I used to be somewhere along that line that what you do, what was your wording?
How you do
one thing. And that brought me a lot of stress. So what I do is I'm really mediocre, like in 99% of the things that I do, and I'm really good at the things that actually are very important for me, like for my family, my kids, and my business. But everything else is like, do I have to like pay the taxes? I'll half-ass that. Do I have to, I don't know, make the lighting look better? I'll half-ass that. But when I'm recording a course or when I'm teaching people, it's like no half-assing. It's like 100%, But that aside.
No, I 100% agree with that, and I think that's kind of a parallel concept of the essentialism, and that's a book that's really really changed my life, because I used to be I still have to always rein myself in, so scattergun with trying to do everything, and it comes out of greed and thinking like, oh, but I want to do this and I want to try this, and actually, as you said, there's no prizes for doing your taxes amazingly well. It's not like you get an Oscar for like being the best person who filled in.
You just end up paying more taxes.
Yeah, exactly. So I think what you're saying there is there are parts of your life where you need to consciously say, do you know what? I'm going to just tick the box with that, and I'm not going to stress about it, because there's no benefit to going over and above with that, and I'm going to focus on the high yield, high return things and go hard on them.
Yeah, and fitness is one of those yield, high return things, which is unfortunately what a lot of people don't understand, specifically in today and age. And I was reading some stats from people in the United States. Around like 50% are obese, something like that, and like 70% of those 50% is like way more than obese. And people get offended when you say like, "Hey, stop being fat," or "Look, being fat will actually screw you up." Dude, that's just a biological reality. And what we want to do when we say, "Hey, dude, take care of your health, eat healthy, drink more water, sleep more," is to care for you. You might not like it, because one of the things that people hate the most is when you tell them to take responsibility for their actions. You want to see someone like really mad? Tell them like, "Hey, you're doing that wrong. Do it this way." They'll get really mad. So we do it out of the goodness of our heart. Pasa, por favor. So how would you tell someone who wants to get their fitness in order, let's say, and perform better at their jobs, have a better mood, increase their a better mindset, because it also comes with the package of getting better in health wise? What would you say to someone who's starting out on that journey to actually get healthy and stick to that habit of trying to get healthy?
Yeah, and so you raised some really good points there, and I think we can start with that, which is this idea of self-love and self-acceptance. And I think what's happened in the last couple of years, because of I don't know how political I'm allowed to get on this podcast, but free reign. Okay, so there's a big movement recently towards total acceptance of everybody, and it's kind of moving towards the philosophical standpoint of everybody is just an amorphous grey blob with no demographic, no characteristic, no race, no gender, no nothing, and we're all the same, and we all need to love ourselves. And I can see that has it has a positive intention, maybe, or maybe began like that, but as we both know, that creates a lot of twisting of the truth and psychological issues that come out as a result of that. Now, to say I love myself as I am, or I accept myself as I am, doesn't mean that you then have to stay as you are. It doesn't mean you can't have goals, you can't seek to improve yourself. And I do not believe that being obese in its truest form, if you don't want to be, I don't think the solution is necessarily to try and converge what is the ideal and kind of twist that into what you are. It's possible to want to change, but also to still love yourself as you are. You don't have to hate yourself. You don't have to kind of whip yourself around all the time. But I would go a step further and argue that actually taking care of yourself and training and sleeping well and not smoking and not drinking and not actively damaging your body and shortening your life, not doing those things is self-love. Much more than playing mental
Accepting
gymnastics.
yourself.
Sorry?
That's much more self-love than accepting yourself as how you currently are.
Yeah, exactly. And it's I think this is a difficult one, because I did a video recently about a famous doctor who has kicked up a bit of a fuss online about the fat acceptance movement, because doctors are often under fire for fat shaming their patients. Now, as doctors, we have no particular standpoint. We don't have an agenda apart from
Getting you healthy.
Get you healthy. Yeah, we're not here to insult you. We're not here to be nice or to be your friend or to upset you. We're just here to say, like, try and get your health outcomes as good as possible. So yeah, that's certainly where I would start with, in terms of realizing that you are doing yourself a huge favor by learning to love yourself, and that's fine. That's something you can continue to do, but also still set yourself goals and aim to improve things. Now, there is an unfortunate reality. We would all like it to be that people weren't judged and criticized and things. But the reality is, based on the data, when people are shown pictures of lean people and fat people, and participants are asked to assess what are some characteristics that you imagine a picture of this person to be, people will assign characteristics of the lean people as this person is wealthy, this person is attractive, they're gregarious, and they will assign to the fat people, this person is lazy, this person is lower intelligence, and this person is less sociable. And it's unfortunate, but this is how people are perceived. Now, over time, those perceptions may change, but you still can improve your experience of life and the way that you're perceived by other people by changing yourself, and that's within your power.
I tweet about, beautifully stated, man. I wish I had that ability in English to talk like you guys, man. I envy. But it comes from a good
just the
place.
accent.
Also, there's something about the English accent that it's so attractive to not only Americans but also people like me from Latin America.
Someone said that to me. They were like, if you're in America and you get pulled over, like if you just speak in a British accent, they'll always be like, "Oh, have a good day, sir," and they'll leave you alone.
Hey, that's a hack. So if you ever get pulled over, you just
Go,
like,
I'm awfully sorry. I didn't realize I was supposed to be.
do you want a glass of water, sir? So so that's all you have to do. The great hack. I learned something today. So there's something that has always bugged me about this conversation online of fat shaming and comparing fat people with leaner people, and this is what it actually makes me mad. It's like, you can be healthy at any weight. That boils my all of the juices of my body boil, and I can feel it, man, because it's not true. And I would know because, for example, my dad had like a pre-heart attack. So I don't know what's the name for that, because he was getting a little bit fat and his arteries were starting to, get blocked. And he started taking his health seriously after that, like more seriously. And now he's in better shape. He's not obese anymore. He's a little bit overweight, but not obese, which is good. And when I see that you can be healthy at any size, I just think about how my dad almost died. Not because he think that you can be healthy at any weight, but because there's some people that actually think that, and they don't give a shit if other people don't believe them. They'll just keep saying it and saying it and saying it until it becomes a truth. And it's not the reality. So how can someone combat that? How can someone just like, dude, shut your freaking mouth. You're just spouting bullshit that will get people killed.
Yeah, this is... So I have issues with people that say this, and it comes down to what we were saying earlier about this is a form of the mental gymnastics that people take to try and justify their behaviors. And we all do it to some extent. We all justify what we do. But the difficulty is when you start creating a movement that justifies something which is going to have significantly negative health outcomes on people. And I'm sorry to hear about your dad having those issues. I'm glad that he's got them sorted. But when people do that, it becomes dangerous. And so the way that the parallel with this is the same as saying you can be healthy at any age. Like, well, yes, you can. But there's always people who say, oh, well, my grandma smoked 20 a day and she lived until 93. And you're like, cool story, bro. Like that's great. But like, that doesn't mean that smoking is now become fine. So age, for example, comes with a set of risk factors. Over time, there are cellular changes, there are arterial changes, there are all these things that happen to increase someone's total risk of death. And that risk of death is 100%. Like,
everyone dies.
There is nobody who has not died in history. So that so it's the same. It's similar to saying, you can run across a road 100 times blindfolded, and 50 out of 100 times you won't die or you won't get hit by a car. Therefore, it's safe to do. no, like being obese is not is not the thing. It's that being obese is a slow set of risk factors that causes disease processes that develop over time. And so, yes, at a single point in time, you could be 25 years old and you could be 150 kilos, you could be very overweight, but have no health problems yet. But that's not to say that it's a thing to be encouraged.
That's the thing about some people that, oh, I feel fine. I don't care. I feel fine. Yeah. Let's talk in 10 years when your joints are like breaking apart. Oh man, I just hate that kind of nonsense.
It's a very difficult one to combat. And I get that line quite a lot in hospital or in the GP practice of, but I feel fine, so why should I take my medication?
You still practice medicine, right?
Yeah, so I'm still doing that mostly, almost full time, so 80% full time.
How do you manage that? Because my guess is that you love your practice, right? I've seen you posting photos of yourself with your, what's the name of the gown, the thing that you put?
Top.
Yeah, the scrubs. Yeah, the scrubs. So how do you split yourself like in 3-5 people to manage not only your business but also doing what you love, which is practicing your what you studied?
Well, I think the key is finding the area in the hospital that's got the best lighting, so you can do a good shot. And then you take 10 photos, and then you can pretend that you're just always doing scrub flexes. So, but yeah, so I actually stepped down to 80% because I've got a number of commitments with family and business and so on. But managing your time is a case of, I think that the number one question to always ask is, or the number one statement is that what is more important than how. I think a lot of people will launch straight into trying to be more productive and doing what they're already doing, but faster. And I guess the bigger question to ask before even doing that, before turning up the speed on something, is, hang on, is this taking me to the direction I want to go? Because if I'm just doing the same but faster, it's it might cause more breaks in the system than necessary. So having a high level view of what are my values, are my goals in line with my values, and are my daily actions and my weekly targets in line with taking me there. If that's the case, brilliant. Next step is, what actions need to be done by me? What can I lean into as my personal expertise? And what actions can be outsourced? And the best way to look at that, I think you've spoken about this as well, is looking at what is your hourly rate based on the income that you generate from your business or your job or whatever. And anything that's below that, outsource it, sack it off, get some software to automate it, whatever you can, just get it off your desk. Just before this podcast, I had someone come to the house with 15 shirts that had been ironed for me. I could try and iron them myself. It would take me twice as long. I would do a terrible job of it. And it's not a good use of my time. I could spend that time making content that's going to generate much more per hour for that. So looking at having a cleaner in your house, like you were saying the same thing, that like being in a country where you can benefit from kind of the currency arbitrage and outsourcing as much as possible, brilliant. You then have more time freed up to do what is valuable for you.
Beautiful, man. Beautiful. And it's more or less how I manage my life. What I don't like to do, I delegate it. But taking into consideration that it doesn't like cost me more delegating it than actually doing it myself. Because I made a mistake with my online business that I delegated some things that I actually enjoyed doing. So I'm not talking only about monetary cost. I'm also talking about how you feel, because sometimes you want to just throw everything to someone else. Do it. I'll pay you. But then where's the enjoyment of doing the things that you love? So I actually fired a couple of my employees after that because I was just delegating the things that I enjoyed doing to them. Now I'm doing it, and of course I have less time, but I feel better inside, and it motivates me more to keep moving forward. So it's something that a lot of people might not agree with. They'll just say like, "You're being dumb. You should put that money in so you can make more money." But there's a point in time where you don't need as much money as you think you need. So for example, my current cost a month is like $5,000 a month. That's how much money I spend a month. And I make much more than that. So making more and more and more, this it's not what I need at the moment. What I need is more systems so that when my business grows, I can actually manage that growth. Because that's the thing that a lot of people don't understand. Oh, let's just make a lot of money. Let's just sell a lot of courses. Let's just sell a lot of whatever. But you're not taking into consideration that once you start growing, the problems also start.
Yeah.
More people start telling you, I want a refund, or more people start asking you questions, or then you have to pay more taxes and you didn't even know. I remember one of these when I started out on Twitter, selling courses and stuff like that. I remember that every single year for the last 3 years, I've seen Americans that follow me and that I follow back complaining, oh shit, taxes. Because they never take into consideration that, okay, I made $100,000 this year, or $500,000, or $1 million this year, and they never took that into consideration, the taxes. And then they start bitching on Twitter. I paid, I don't know, $100,000 in taxes. And surely they didn't even have that in their bank account because they're just reinvesting that money on something else. So with growth comes a lot of much more responsibilities that, for example, I'm not willing to take in right now. I'm trying to grow a business that doesn't depend of a lot of employees. That's one of the things that I enjoy about my business, that I don't have to be, hey, dude, do this for me, or planning with other people. I don't enjoy that. I don't enjoy that. So it's not only about the financial cost, but also the emotional cost, and when you flexed and you did that, I always wondered, what is the process that someone needs to take to actually like get that, that peak? Because for example, I don't have that. Let me see if I can get it. I don't have that yet.
It's not bad.
My triceps are a little bit more, but still, I don't have the peak in the biceps. And I've never been able to get that. How the hell can I? By the way, I'm 6'2". I'm 192 pounds at the moment. How can someone like me get bigger biceps?
Okay. So 6'2", 190 pounds. Based on my calculations, what you need to do is buy a pint of double cream.
And then mix it with spaghetti and mix it in the blender.
Blend it in the blender. Yeah, it is much harder at your height. Like I'm like 3 feet tall. So for me, like having a peaked bicep, it's one of the great silver linings. Do you know what I mean by that? The great kind of saving grace of being a short guy is that you could have like 13-inch arms and still look massive because of the proportions. So I think that there's probably
there was a point. Hear me out. There was a point that I had 17 inches, but I never had the peak. I never was like the definition. It's like because I have really long limbs, specifically my lower part, like my legs are like really long, and I have chicken legs, and I've tried to like do what's the name of this calf raises every day, 50, 60, 70 repetitions. Nah, horrible. Genetics doesn't care, man.
Yeah, I've given up on calves, man. I just think, you know what? I'll just wear long trousers for the rest of my life. Like, I'll just never buy shorts, and that's easier than training my calves. But, yeah. I mean, Johnny has a similar thing. So he's 6'1", I think, and like he's not got the proportions for bodybuilding, but he is an amazing powerlifter. Like he deadlifts 320 kilos, which is what's that in pounds?
Like 700 pounds, man.
Yeah, I think so.
That's a lot.
705 pounds. So but he's just built for it. Like he's got a short body, he's got super long legs, he's got long arms. He just his range of motion's tiny. He's just like built for deadlifts. So I think part of it is just to do with the way that you're built, and even things like body fat distribution. So another example, like
In my case, everything goes to
the abdomen.
mid range. Yeah, like
That's a double-edged sword, man, because it means that when you're in a vest,
bulking,
you've always got tricep separation. You always look good from the vest, but getting the abs is hard for other people. So for Johnny, like he's the same as you. To get abs, he has to be like well below 10% body fat. So he will have like striated vascular delts, and he's had striations on his glutes before, and still only had like a 4-pack. So it is. We had a connection dropout. No,
really, I see you.
Oh, we're back. Cool. Yeah. So he's like, the body fat distribution is a big one as well. So again, double-edged sword. If you store your body fat evenly like me, then you end up getting deceptively fat before you're like, oh man, I need to go on a diet here, and then it takes a long time to really have much physical difference.
Man, some guys are just built differently, man. I store body fat in my face. You should see me 2 months ago when I had COVID. You should see a photo of 2 months ago and now. 2 months ago, I was at 175 pounds because of COVID. Because I spent
lost 20 pounds from COVID.
I was at 185 and I went to 175. So I lost 10 pounds due to COVID. Because I spent like 3 weeks feeling bad, and on top of that, then one week in the hospital, hospitalized, and then
seriously?
3 more. Yeah, and then 3 more weeks like fucked up because I was given remdesivir and a lot of steroids. And when you get outside of the hospital and you're not receiving all those drugs, your brain is like, hey, what? Where are those great things that you were giving me a couple of days ago?
I want some of the good stuff.
Yeah, I want that. And look, dude, all of those drugs that I was being, through the veins. I can tell you for a fact that in the last like 5 years, I have never slept better. I spent 1 week at the hospital with pneumonia and COVID, but I slept like a baby. Look, I have an app, Whoop, this thing, the Whoop app that tells me all my measurements and how well I slept.
So you kept your Whoop on in hospital?
Yeah. And everything was green. Like my sleeping, my resting, my heart rate dropped to my resting heart rate dropped to like 45 beats per minute, which is insanely low. It's crazy, man. And once I got off the drugs, everything went back to normal. 60% recovery rate, not being able to sleep well.
Wow.
But worse, because then I developed like a really massive anxiety because of the lack of all the injections
The rebound and stuff.
And of course, since I was mostly drugged all the time, I wasn't worrying too much. So I didn't feel any kind of stress or anxiety during the process. But afterwards, when I I now have time to think about what happened. I now am back to my safe space where I can cry myself into a puddle. I didn't cry. I'm just using an analogy, a metaphor. Then the anxiety hit on top of the lack of the steroids and the remdesivir and like the other 6-7 things that I was being given to combat the pneumonia that I developed. So I lost 10 pounds, and it's been like 2 months since that. And thankfully, I've been able to rebound in regards to energy, in regards to how I feel. I still have headaches almost every day, and there's nothing wrong inside my head. I did all the checkups. It's something that happens to some people after COVID. Mm-hmm. And I've gained more weight. I've been struggling like for a year to get over 185 pounds. And now I'm 193 pounds, which is good. And I notice it. Like when I see myself in the mirror, I see the difference. Those almost 10 pounds, it's like a huge difference, especially in my arms, my face, and The belly, unfortunately. But yeah, it was a really interesting experience. But this is not about me, man.
I'm glad you're okay. I didn't realize you had you obviously really got hit hard with it. Like
It was
week
the
in
pneumonia.
hospital.
Yeah, the pneumonia is the thing that got my doctor worried. So here's why I was hospitalized. On a Thursday of 2 months ago, in enero, febrero, marzo of March, on a Tuesday of March, I went and did the COVID test, positive. Then I went and did like the scan to see how my lungs were, and like 10% of my lungs had a little bit of pneumonia. So the doctor told me like, hey, buy this expensive, really expensive medicine, drink it every day, and do this and that, and let's talk next week. During the weekend, I developed a fever. That's not good when you have pneumonia, especially when you're on the medication. So I told the doctor, look, I still have a congestion. Congestion, is that how you guys say it? And I'm coughing, and I had shivers during the nights, and I developed a fever. Only once, but that's too much when you have pneumonia and you're on the medication. So on Tuesday, I went and performed another scan. The pneumonia advanced, regardless of all the things that I was drinking to reduce, the pneumonia. And she told me like around 20% of your lungs have pneumonia, and I will have to send you to the hospital, and you'll have to get inside the hospital because it advanced too fast. You're not in risk, but to avoid getting you to the point where you have to put a tube down your throat, let's just go to the hospital. And I spent 1 week there, man. It was fine, except when the internet stopped working on a Friday.
Worst thing, it's the most important thing in a hospital. More than the oxygen, more than the like fluids. If the Wi-Fi breaks,
Dude,
chaos.
the Friday when I was in the hospital, the internet went away, and I spent Friday, Saturday, and Sunday without internet.
Just sat staring at the wall.
Horrible. Yeah, and the thing is that the only part that didn't have like Wi-Fi, internet for the phone, because the signal was bad, was my room. So what I did, I put the cell phone outside of my room, and then, oh shit, okay, I now have internet. Thankfully, it was my room that was like blocking the signal. So yeah, I survived the dumb virus, but it wasn't like a bad experience, even though it was the worst experience in my life. But I cannot say it was bad. I have never been hospitalized before that, but I just see
that's
that
a great
as
thing to say. To say it was the worst experience of my life, but it wasn't.
And it wasn't
so
bad. Yeah, I blessed, man. Like I have my 4 grandparents married and together. My parents are married. My wife's parents are married. 2 of her grandparents are alive. I married a great woman with a great family. I love my father and my mother-in-law, which is something not a lot of people can say.
That's unusual.
That's unusual. But too much about me, man. Let's talk about you. So I don't know if people ask you about your personal life and your family life. Is that something you are open to talk about?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's not very exciting, but yeah, it's probably
You'd
not
be
something.
surprised.
Maybe, yeah. So when in content in my kind of online presence, I tend not to. I don't upload like personal photos of family stuff or kind of what I'm doing. I think a lot of the content we put up is very much focused towards the result for people, but that's not to say that, I mean, that's not a particularly deliberate business strategy. I think that's more of a kind of a personal slant that Johnny and I feel like we live quite boring lives outside of business. And so we don't tend to show much stuff. But we do advise people that we're working with, say like, if it's the kind of thing that you're inclined to doing and, you're good at Instagram, you're good at photos and things, then people buy coaches, they don't buy coaching. So showing a bit of yourself in more ways than one is a good business strategy.
Let me ask you something. Why the nose piercing?
So this comes back to outsourcing. So,
What?
Yeah, so you might have seen Chris Williamson, who runs the Modern Wisdom podcast.
I think I know.
You seen him?
He's
Yeah,
like,
so
he used like to be a model and now he's a podcaster or something like that.
that's him. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm very good friends with Chris, and I had another friend who was equally stylish as Chris, but had a different kind of style. Like Chris is very symmetrical, sports clothes, chiseled, that kind of look. Whereas the other guy who I used to live with was very like bohemian, like silk kimono shirts and all that kind of thing. But he was very stylish with it too. Both of them independently said to me, Yusef, you need to get rid of your like green shoes and purple jumper, burn them, like get rid of those shoes, get a skin fade haircut, grow a beard, get a nose ring, get a tattoo. And they were both like, yeah, you need to do this. And I was like, you know what? I can't do style stuff. I don't understand it. I'll happily outsource it to you. So that's the story of the nose ring, Jose.
So you literally outsource it.
Yeah,
What?
I was
Tell
like,
me what
I'll
to do.
trust you guys.
And it looks good, man. It looks good.
It's luckily it's the kind of thing that you can wear in a hospital without problems, especially with the mask on too. But there's certain piercings and regulations and things you can't have.
For example, can you wear like a ring there, like one of the eyelid?
I don't think you can have an eyelid ring, but it's different. Like some nurses have like stuff everywhere and no one says anything. So I guess it depends. I think there's more of an expectation as a doctor that you have to look a bit more sensible.
Uh-huh.
And I think beard, 30 points out of 10. Nose ring, 70 points out of 100. So I've used up all my points. So actually I have to then have, iron shirt, neat shoes, all the rest of it, just because I'm at my max.
No, but you're a good looking guy, so
there we go. So that gives me 10 points back then.
yeah, dude. When you visit like a good looking doctor, no matter the gender, it's different because at the end of the day, there's something about good looking people that it's an aura that you guys have. I don't think I have that aura, but for example, you do have that. Oh, thank you, man. You're such a good liar. But but you're a good-looking guy, man. You should post more photos of yourself or more videos, and you online because of yourself. Because at the end of the day, as you said, people buy. They don't buy the coaching; they buy the coach. And you certainly have the physical attributes to get attention.
Thanks, man.
So that's a good thing to have.
I'm just good at
man.
playing the lighting.
Nah. You're good looking. You're a good looking fellow. You should abuse biology, man, which is something a lot of people don't understand, and goes back to our previous points that once you're fit, once you're like feeling good, and you learn how to channel that energy thanks to fitness, you're basically taking advantage of millions of years of evolution. You're abusing of your biology by actually taking care of your body. And taking care of your body it makes you look better. Like imagine yourself with 30 more pounds. I wouldn't be saying the same thing that I just said to you.
Well, I think this is a really good point. And actually the biggest, because you're in your early 30s, is that right?
33.
33. So I think
without the beard, I would be like 22.
20. Oh, brilliant! So you can shave 11 years off just from.
Dude, without the beard. It's a different face.
So we're at the age now where I think you start to see the cumulative impact of years of lifestyle. So I think now you're at the age where, you see old school friends that you haven't seen in 15 years. And
Fact.
some of them,
Everyone
are you're like, oh my God, what's happened to you? And, because when you were all at school together at the age of 16, like the aging process, no matter how many cigarettes you smoke behind the bike sheds and how many vodka, how many like liters of vodka you drink, at the age of 16, you're bulletproof. And then that starts to really diverge.
Why
by the
is
age
that?
Of 30. Just
why is that?
Not had enough time to just like really pound the system.
Dude, because I remember when I was 16, I ate, and 15, I ate everything, and nothing did harm to me. Like here in the Dominican Republic, yeah, it's like doesn't matter. It fell on the floor. Good. Salty. Nothing happens to you when you're 15. You can eat shit and nothing happens to you. It's crazy. Is it because your body's still like in development, or is it that you haven't pounded your body with so many bad things?
Yeah,
or both of them?
I think both. And there's a lot of cellular factors, like your cell turnover is much higher, your growth hormone, your neuroplasticity, all these things. And so and obviously your anabolic hormones are absolutely through the roof. So, from the age of 16 to 25, you're on a natural steroid cycle. And from a training perspective, like anyone who's using steroids at the age of 20, like you're an idiot. Like just train and eat. But yeah, like I remember being like 18, and you'd have like a heavy deadlift session, and then you'd maybe snatch in the evening, and then you'd go to gymnastics in the evening.
How old are you, by the way?
I'm 31. So
okay, you've been lifting since 18?
Since 16, yeah. But I mean, badly. Like as you were saying, making all the mistakes.
Yeah. Like no pain, no gain.
Yeah, like an absolute idiot. But and that's it. Age of 18, you could do all these things to yourself, and then the next day you'd wake up and you'd feel absolutely fine. Whereas if I did that now, I would feel like I've been hit by a bus the next day. Like it's pretty serious.
Every time I see one of these little guys, not little guys, but youngsters talking like, yes, just fucking lift and you'll be fine, to a 30, 40, 50-year-old guy, like, no, dude, it's not the same thing. Once you get past 30 years, your body feels different. Like, I'm not a big complainer, but after I, past the 30-year mark, I've been feeling some aches that I didn't previously got when I was younger, and it's not something that I don't mistreat my body. I always try to keep myself under 200 pounds. And so, and I have successfully achieved that. The only time I was like 210 pounds was when I was actually lifting a lot. So imagine this guy, 6'2", 210 pounds. Everyone's just like, the big guy is coming, and they just like went away they just, I don't know, slid away so I can get past through them. That's one of the benefits of being tall, specifically in my country where everyone is like tiny, like really tiny. Being above 6 feet, like it's good.
The presence.
You think so? I've never considered myself as someone that has like a good presence or charismatic or stuff like that. Some people tell me I have some charisma, but I don't see it. I just don't see it.
No, I think like you're very uninhibited. Like you don't get in your own way, and it comes across as very authentic online. And I feel like speaking to you on a podcast is the same as like having a beer with you. There's a lot of people online who you can tell they're putting across a certain persona, and that it's whereas I feel with you, like what you see is what you get.
Oh, thank you. Now that you say that, I'm a little bit more inhibited when I'm like one-on-one, because there's some things you cannot talk about online. But I try to be as much as Jose Rosado as I can be online, because at the end of the day, dude, what good does it make trying to fake who you are online? And then when people meet you in real life, they say like, what? So this is the same guy that I saw online. I want, like, if I ever meet you online, which could be, who knows? Where do you live, by the way?
In the UK.
In the UK, yeah. I should travel. I need to travel to UK one day.
Always welcome to the UK. I'll show you the sites.
Yeah, man. My wife tells me that I've never been to Europe, although I'm just counting Europe and UK like as a whole. Sorry, man. It's just the way we think about that.
Unfortunately, we've been kicked out of Europe this year.
Didn't you guys kicked out yourself?
Well, yeah.
That's a good thing, man. Individualism is not bad. And thinking about your country first, I don't think that's a bad idea, man. It's when you take it to the extremes, because at the end of the day, your household, where you live, would you give up everything in your life and your household to give it to someone else? Of course not, man. So Nah, I don't want to talk about that. Fuck it. Too political. Too political. So let's go back to fitness, man. So to close off the podcast, what would you say to anyone that would like to get their health in check, would like to leverage the good health to produce more, and more so importantly, how to maintain that habit of taking care of their health?
Yeah, good question. And unfortunately, as with most things, I think the answer to this is quite boring, but the difficulty is in actually doing it.
Boring is good.
Yeah, I mean, there's a big movement again online with biohacking and all these kind of advanced training tweaks and all this kind of stuff. And it's usually the kind of people that are interested in biohacking are the people who are looking for the shortcuts, and they're looking for to avoid the boring work. And I think really everything comes down to the key things of, first, do no harm. Like smoking, and if you smoke and if you drink lots of alcohol, like they are low-hanging fruit. Like get rid of them and just watch how you just feel better instantly. You'll have more energy, you'll perform better, you'll focus better, sexual function will improve, like your training performance, all these things will fly. Next thing, get your sleep in order. There's always money left on the table with sleep. And I guess you experienced that with the Whoop band, which I find fascinating, that like you had the best sleep of your life in a hospital with a pneumonia. But
man, remdesivir, man, they should sell that in the black market. Oh my god, that made me feel good.
That's the good stuff. So that's it. You know, you felt amazing. You get the sleep in order. Then in terms of taking care of your body, the training 3 times a week, I think, is non-negotiable. Doesn't have to be
30 minutes,
lifting.
Man.
Yeah, it's all it takes. 30 minutes in and out. Don't sit around in the gym texting. Just get in there. Do
How dare you?
How absolutely despicable. So just get the work in. 30 minutes, and you can be in and out. It doesn't have to be a case of, oh, but I don't have time to train. If you follow Jack Coulson on Twitter, I think he is the man for destroying that excuse. Like,
dude, that guy trains in his house and like he's shredded as hell.
Yeah, he's a legend, him. So, and if you follow him,
let me tell you a secret.
Yeah,
when he was like starting out on Twitter, he reached out to me and paid me for a consultation, and after that, he like blew up. He from time to time tweets like, "Thank you to Jose Rosado. If it weren't for Jose Rosado, I wouldn't be like where I'm at." This is just me gloating, by the way.
He's flown,
and I'm not taking credit for him, but I just wanted to put that.
Well, so interestingly enough, when I joined, because when I joined Twitter, I joined it like 10 years ago, and then didn't really use the account, just kind of like
you too.
It. And then a couple of years ago, we saw Jack was flying on there, and I sent him a message, and he said, "Oh, you should get Jose's course."
Nice.
So I did. Yeah. So he was the one who recommended it, and since then, the information in there was really succinctly put. It was just like, right, there we go, good to go.
2021 version is better, man.
Really?
Much better, because I didn't understand all the things that I now understand about human psychology, specifically for Twitter. And I added more stuff to the course. So if you go to Gumroad, you can download the 2021 version. It's much better.
Ah, cool. Okay, I'll get the upgrade.
For free.
The like seasoned, matured version of that.
It's like a fine wine. That course has aged like a fine wine, because I upload. Beautiful. I'll try to make a new version every year from the things that I learned, because Twitter is such a great platform to network, to meet people, to make money, to leverage your skills and teach people how to do what you do. And I don't know about you, but Twitter and the way I've been using Twitter changed my life forever. The dumpster fire social media platform changed my life. I don't know if that happened to you, but it did happen to me. And I'm so grateful for the platform, regardless of all the bad things it still has.
Yeah, it's been very good for business in terms of the other thing is per unit of input. because we
By the
made,
way, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
I don't mind talking for more time.
yeah, that's fine, man.
Yeah, because I wanted to close off the podcast thinking that, oh, maybe Yusuf doesn't have more time, but
No, I'm having a
Dude,
great time.
like-
I've got another 20 minutes or so. So
coolness.
if you have, then great. The one of the mistakes that we made early on was shiny object syndrome. We signed up with the business and we got a blog, a podcast, YouTube, Snapchat, Instagram, email list, Twitter.
You try to grow everywhere.
Facebook. Yeah, we were just like, oh, we need to. Luckily, we didn't go TikTok because we can't dance, but everything else, and we're trying to maintain it all at once, and it's just too much to maintain. You end up diluting yourself across the platforms, and so eventually we were like, okay, we need to kind of really focus in on a few of these. Facebook grew very well early on. Do you remember the good old days of Facebook when you could boost a post for £5 and it would get thousands of views?
That doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, those days are over. And we built the Facebook following to 20,000 people, and then pretty much overnight, like
Boom.
nothing. You'd post something and it would get one like maybe from your mum. Like that was it. So then Instagram, we initially could grow it. Now like it seems like no matter what we do on Instagram, it barely grows, barely moves.
Same. I stopped posting on Instagram like a month ago, and it kept growing at the same speed as I was posting one or two posts every day.
Makes you feel
And I'm
like
like,
I've
fuck
been
this
wasting my
shit.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do right now is use Hype Fury, which is an app that I use to post tweets, to send those same tweets to Instagram automated. Fuck it, and let Instagram grow by itself, because I noticed that my growth without posting was the same as posting. So why the hell am I going to waste my time creating very different content? Because Instagram doesn't like. I'm a bit more polarizing on Twitter, calling people fat and stuff like that. You cannot do that on Instagram. They'll literally remove your post, and they don't give a shit. They'll just tell you, this go against our community guidelines. The post has been deleted, and you cannot appeal it. So
That's it. It's crazy. There's such different cultures on different platforms, isn't there?
dude, and I love getting the hate on Twitter also. On Instagram, it's all love and, oh, you're so wonderful, I'm going to jack off for you, Jose Rosado. And I don't like
come on,
that. It's
haters.
too positive. Yeah, we're the haters. The haters is what make Twitter fun, man. And the death threats you get on the DMs. Like, dude, if you come to Dominican Republic and try to kill me, like, you're going to have a really tough time.
You're like, good luck.
Not only trying to find me, but also dealing with the machetes and the things that I have under my bed. You'll have a tough time with the machete.
So you get death threats on Twitter?
I've received a couple of death threats on Twitter.
Oh my god! I mean,
Want to know why?
Yeah, what
I
triggered
posted
that?
some. Oh, I don't know if I should. I've learned from my mistakes, so I don't even know I should be talking about it right
maybe
now.
this is dangerous to ask you.
Screw it. I don't give a shit, man. I don't have a reputation that can be crippled by something like this, nor do I care, because it's not that big of a deal. So I posted like, these are the only anxiety pills you need to fix your anxiety. And they were not pills. They were just like, do this, do that, no sugar. And people like this, like, dude, of course the tweet went viral. It was in 2018, I believe. And I got a lot of hate from the blue check marks and the
I think I remember
pink
that
color
one.
people and people that have color in their armpits and stuff like that. So a lot of hate and death threats, not only in the timeline, but also on the DMs. And I'm like, okay, this is fun, but it's not worth it. So I've reduced the amount of things that I talk in regards to putting these two words together, pills and anxiety. So you don't see me posting those two words together, because people love their pills,
And
to the point that they will threaten my life.
yeah, and this is a difficult thing with Twitter. I know we spoke about this last time on the podcast as well. About I had a similar, not quite witch hunt, but I posted, imagine calling yourself a strength coach with a 2-plate bench press.
Yeah.
Like a 100-kilogram bench press, and people lost it. But this is what Twitter does. People read something from the lens of their pre-existing ideas, and they they completely miss the point of what you're saying. Like, I totally get what you're saying with the anxiety thing, and it's just you're just playing the game with Twitter.
Hyperbole, yeah, it's just hyperbole. Yeah.
Of course, if you were to sit down over a drink with someone who disagreed with you, you would say, well, yes, like obviously there are organic and natural and chemical causes of anxiety which might need drug treatment, but in many cases it might be helpful to tick the basics and make sure that you're training and sleeping well. You know, that's not a controversial thing, but obviously I know you've got to spin it into a polarizing,
more entertaining
thing. Yeah. But it doesn't warrant a death threat. I mean, that's people just taking things too seriously.
Yeah, but the thing is that I also think that they don't actually mean it. But still, man, I wouldn't ever in my life tell someone, hey, I'm going to do this to you if you don't delete that post. Like, never. I've never threatened anyone in my life. Like, when I was at school, maybe like I'm going to crush your face. But after I came out of school, I've never been physical with physically confrontational with people, because it's not worth it. Specifically in today and age where anyone can just stab you to death or like shut your face with a gun. So
it's never worth it.
It's much better to play it safe. Yes, I have a family to take care of. I have 2 kids. I want them to have me in their wedding when they get married. So I've pussified myself. I've become a pussy after I grew.
The thing is, it's a rational choice. Like, rather than
it is.
And actually, I've spoken to martial artists before on our podcast, and always the advice that they give is avoid the fight. Like, don't get into a fight. Like, they were like, you've got nothing to prove to some random like guy on the street who's, you know, what. Even best case scenario, I always think like, if I'm getting into a confrontation, I know we're going way off topic here. I hope you don't mind.
No problem. It's a podcast. It's just a conversation, right?
So if you have a confrontation with someone in the street, like, best case scenario, let's say you beat them up. Okay, like, then what? Like, you probably aren't going to be completely, like, best case, you're going to have like a bit of a bruised face and maybe some bruised knuckles, and the other guy will get off worse. Then what? Like, you've still ruined your night. Like, you
gain an enemy for life.
You've gained an enemy.
That's one.
They see you again, they're going to get their friends. You might have been on your way to a restaurant, and then you've kind of, it's changed your mood, because then you're just kind of anxious, and you've got the adrenaline going. Or you beat them up, and you could knock someone out, they hit their head on the floor, they get subarachnoid hemorrhage, and they die. Like, that's not, then what? You've just killed someone because of trying to prove
manslaughter, man. That's the least you could get.
Yeah, and so I always think, like, I'll happily just take the hit on my pride and run away and look like a willy for a day. And
you don't curse, right?
I don't know how X-rated this podcast is, so
no, it's. Don't you see me? Dude, I don't give a fuck.
So yeah, I just think I'd rather do that, take the short-term hit, than try it, for what kind of gain?
I remember a post that at Lattimore on Twitter posted about.
He is brilliant.
That guy's a fucking genius. Like, like, he has a degree in physics, and he's a heavyweight boxer with a record of 13 wins and 1 loss, I guess. So he can kick your shit. He can kick your ass, and also with fitness, and also with brains.
Kick your shit.
Yeah, your shit out. That's the correct wording, dude. How many languages can you speak? I speak at least 1 more language than you, I think.
Fair
I don't
enough.
know. So that aside, he's like a big buff dude. Okay, he's like 6'1", 210, 20 pounds of pure like muscles. So he can kill you. And he posted once, like, unless you're willing to either die or get killed, same thing. Unless you're willing to die or kill someone, don't get into a confrontation on the streets. Just either say sorry or run away.
It's chaos. So unpredictable.
It is. And people, they see the movies and they see that you can like knock someone out with one punch. In reality, not a lot of people can knock out someone with 1 punch. And on the other side, you get stabbed. Do you think you would not get up after you get stabbed? The adrenaline, you wouldn't even notice that you got stabbed. And then you're going to stab the other guy. Oh man, it's so horrible. It's not like the movies. Or if you get shot, people think, oh, just shoot the guy. Dude, you can shoot someone in the leg and the adrenaline will make them keep going forward. Have you seen those videos of people getting shot on the streets and they just keep going and going and going? That's real life. In movies, you shoot someone and it's like, oh fuck, real life people, adrenaline does things, man.
Yeah, and this I think that's a great point, that in films and in games and stuff, like, you fight someone and then like they lose 10 bars of health and then they eat some apples and then they're back up to 100 and they're fine. Like in the hospital, I've seen the occasional, I don't work on trauma, but I've seen the occasional trauma of, someone who's been maybe stabbed in the neck and they have a major stroke and have to have their hemicraniotomy, have to have half their skull taken out, and that, they might have to be then fed with a spoon the rest of their life. Or someone who's got into a fight in the street and hit their head off a wall or off the floor and the permanent brain damage. Like, there's these things are so permanent. And you'd probably, that's the kind of thing that your family would look back on and be like, well, what was the point in trying to, be the alpha at the time, just for the sake of like image,
proving yourself.
Yeah.
And this is so in line with also health, because here's the thing. If you get into a fight on the streets, things scale up really fast. In health, it also happens the same way. You start getting fat very slow. And from one day to another, bam, something breaks. And it's like you dropping a glass and it's all scattered. And that's what's happened with health. It's once it decides to like all hell loose in your body,
yeah,
it's like that. It's not something that slowly you're like, oh, okay, I'm feeling bad today. And no, you're going to feel it one day when you like, what's happening? Everything is going dark out of the blue, because health it's weird. It's weird how that happens.
This is the concept of decompensation, where your body has a kind of tolerance. It has a threshold to handle insults that you throw at it, and then there can be a point where one organ goes, oh, you know what, I can't handle this anymore, and it gives up. and then everything else is like, whoa, okay, I've got a lot more load now because that kidney's given up, and so now I've got to take on the load of both, or the liver can't handle these toxins, or whatever it is. So it can certainly happen, and particularly with being overweight or obesity, there is a tipping point where when someone gets beyond a certain level of fatness, there's a couple of things that happen. One of them is that there's a change in your gut microbiome and a change in the way that your brain reacts to food. For someone who's lean, they might have like a cheeseburger and be like, yeah, it was all right, but it wasn't amazing, and they don't need to eat more. Whereas someone who's very overweight, their entire gut microbiome, their brain, everything's like built
more
to eat more of it. They eat it and suddenly, like all of the dopamine receptors have lit up in the brain. All the reward circuits are firing at full force. And their satiety hormones, their ability to regulate their hunger, has been distorted because of how much body fat is on their body. And so there's no longer those normal signals of, okay, it's time to eat, it's time to stop eating now. If you've ever been, and this happens as well, if you're super lean, if you've ever been like weight sub 10% body fat, you start to enter like a real starvation mode of appetite. Where,
what do you mean?
So this is, so in for example, a way to describe this, you're 190 pounds now. Let's say 1 pound of fat is 3,500 calories. If you lost 50 pounds, let's say something happened and you lost like a hell of a lot of weight, like a dangerous amount of weight, that's 50 times 3,500. So that's 175,000 calories that is now in deficit. So you might be super hungry at that point, and your body is like really giving it the beans with the hunger hormones, there's no way you're going to be able to eat 175,000 calories to bring yourself back up to that. So it's going to feel like this kind of black hole of appetite that is insatiable. And that happens when you're extremely
I didn't
lean.
know that.
Oh, it's horrible. And, you end up doing these funky behaviors where, like, when I was super lean, I was eating 2 kilograms of cauliflower every day just to try and, like, fill the hole. Like, I was looking at a box of tissues thinking, oh, I could eat that. I bet there's no calories in that. Like, it was mad. Like, you get, like, really kind of disordered eating behavior. And that same thing happens, but tips in the other way when you're super obese. That leptin regulation also becomes that you no longer respond normally to leptin, to the satiety hormone.
Oh, okay. So leptin is the thing that manages your desire to eat.
It causes you to stop eating. Basically, it says like, okay, I've eaten enough on this meal, and so you can just basically keep eating, and you don't get that same trigger of like, okay, that's enough. So you're exactly right that once someone hits the tipping point, it becomes this spiral, and they actually have to really stop that momentum and say, okay. Did you ever see that show with the American doctor, and they get like morbidly obese people, and they say, like, okay,
the Biggest Loser?
Similar to that, but they're in the clinic, and like there's a clip going around of like someone she's morbidly obese, and she like sniffs some broccoli and she starts retching. Now
you need to send me that video.
I'll have to find it. We're gonna add it to the podcast. And at the time, I remember seeing it, thinking, "Oh, she's being dramatic." But actually, like, if your gut microbiome has completely overtaken your brain to make you only seek certain types of hyperpalatable, high-calorie dense foods, and then start rejecting vegetables, you're going to need to like reprogram yourself to get
and that's
back
going
on
to take
course.
a lot of work, right?
Yeah.
Damn, man, that seems to be a very horrible situation to be in.
To look at some broccoli and be like,
I do that when I see like a burger, man. I some types of burgers, but after I got into the fitness thing and taking my health with more care, taking my health more seriously, there's some types of food that once I see it, it's like, ugh. For example, when I see a Diet Coke or some, I don't know, man, any kind of soda. I haven't drank soda like for the last 2 years, and when I see it, I'm like, ugh, I don't
too
know.
much.
Yeah, and everything right now feels. If I ever break my diet and I eat something that's not the regular thing that I eat, a lot of meat and eggs and some vegetables, everything tastes like cotton candy, like everything, man.
It's it's that contrast, isn't it? It's only when you've been eating kind of, let's say, clean for a while that you go back to, like, you see someone drinking a full sugar Coke, and you're like, whoa, like.
You're judging the person. Look at that motherfucker drinking that shit.
That's it. You have a sip of it, and you're like, this is so sweet. Like, more than is even 7 teaspoons of sugar in a can of Coke. Like, but because over time that's become the norm, it's just established as the thing that we do. It's so crazy. And then when you've been off it for a while, you taste it for what it really is, and you're like, whoa, that's too strong. Like, I have to water that down. So, the food industry has really done a number on everybody, and I think this is why we're seeing the 60-70% of people who are overweight and obese now. Like, we've been duped.
Is that it's so easy, man? Because who in their right mind would think that drinking basically colored water would make you fat? But then you see the nutritional facts, and there's like 20 grams of sugar and 100 grams of another thing mixed into that colored water, which is basically what gets you fat. I've read this over and over and over again from all the fitness guys that I follow. If you stop drinking all of those soft drinks, you'll lose weight really quick, because a lot of people just don't count that as part of something that adds calorie to your diet. And it's so true, man. Once I remember I drank Coca-Cola every day for like years, every day. When I stopped drinking that Coke every day, I spent 1 week with a little bit of like anxious because you're used to it, because of the sugar and the caffeine. And it took me like a month to stop like craving the Coca-Cola.
How much Coca-Cola
So
were you drinking?
one or two every day for years, because I worked in a place where they don't give a shit what you did with your time. If you like delivered on your promises, they didn't care if you were in the office. They didn't care. This was back in 2017, 18, I don't know. And the thing is that right across the street, we had a supermarket. So when we wanted to procrastinate, which was basically at all times, we just crossed the street and bought a lot of sweets and the diet and the Coca-Cola and the stuff. And every day for almost 2 years, Coca-Cola every day, one and two every day. And it's really hard to avoid it because the other guys will say, "Hey, let's go to the supermarket." We just cross the street and go to the supermarket. And it was a way for bonding, but also of procrastinating. And we used that time some of the guys used the time to smoke. I was smoking in the second hand because I've never smoked a cigarette in my entire life. But my vice was like the Coca-Cola. I dropped that. And that first week, as I told you, horrible anxiety, not horrible anxiety, but horrible cravings, which is similar to anxiety. But after that, I just like 2 years ago, I decided 2019, fuck this shit. No more sodas. So what I've done is I've substituted the soda with water, of course, and from time to time, one of these sparkling water, which is just basically water with carbonated water. And that's how I avoid drinking the sodas, which today I just like, I don't even like, when I see it's like, fuck that.
Nice, man.
But
it's such an easy win. And
it is.
like for, let's say 2 cans of Coke, 35 grams of carbs per can, 70 grams of carbohydrates. Like that would be so much nicer to eat. What's that? Like
so much nicer.
That's like 4 bananas or 5 or 6 slices of bread, like, or it's a bunch of fruit. It's like there's so many things that you could eat and you'd feel like you've actually eaten something. Like it takes up some space in your stomach rather than just like.
Let me tell you one good problem that I have right now. Do you have more time?
Yeah.
Okay. I have a good problem. What do I mean with good problem? For example, if you have too many clients, that's a good problem to have. Okay. In my case, in regards to fitness and dieting, and my problem is struggling to gain weight. Because since I have a really high dense protein diet, when you eat a lot of protein, you don't get too much hunger. At least that's how my body processes all of that thing. So I eat a lot of steaks and eggs and fish and anything that has a lot of protein. So I'm constantly battling with my desire to gain weight and my hatred to force myself to eat. I was talking with a friend, he's also a personal trainer, and he just told me, like, stop being a pussy. Eat more. But I like enjoying my food. And forcing myself to eat is like, nah, man. Eating a good steak, a prime steak, forcing yourself to eat a prime steak, that's just dumb.
Yeah,
so,
I agree.
So
there's a lot of
how
personal
can
trainers.
I gain more weight?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of personal trainers that will they have a very mechanical approach to food and they impose that on other people. And actually, they often forget that food is something to be enjoyed. And people enjoy eating, and to try and take that away from someone is not a productive way to build a long-term habit. So yeah, I agree. You don't want to be forcing down a steak. I would I've written a long piece and submitted something to the British Association of Sports Medicine on satiety and hunger regulation as well. So if you go on propanefitness.com/hunger, got the full guide on there. But there's a few components to why, as we were saying, why obesity has grown so much over the last few years. And part of it's the food industry and that optimal combination of sugar, salt, and fat, like in a Krispy Kreme donut or something, that salted caramel, that makes people overeat. And if you're looking to gain weight, you can just reverse some of those processes. So, as you say, protein and fat tend to be more satiating. Each macronutrient has its own mechanisms of promoting fullness, but protein is a particularly powerful one.
Yeah.
So it might be the case that at the end of every meal, you maybe need to add in something that you could eat quite easily. So for me, I find like fruit loaf. I don't know if you have fruit loaf or like toasted tea cakes. Like
I can search it right now on Google to see what a fruit. What's the name?
fruit loaf. So,
Fruit loaf.
or it could be rice cakes with peanut butter or
Oh,
something.
okay. We have those here.
Oh, nice. So anything like that that's like easy to just nail, and you could have it after a meal, and that's going to just bump up your intake by 200 calories each
That's
meal.
a good thing. I did that today, by the way. I ate my breakfast, which is when I say breakfast, it doesn't feel like a breakfast for a lot of people because it was 1 pound of steak, some corn, because I added a little bit of what's the name of that carbohydrates, and some just vegetables. And afterwards, I ate like a tiny cup of ice cream, which is I've noticed that eating the ice cream after eating has helped me gain a little bit of weight. But still, I don't want to depend on eating ice cream every day or every other day to gain weight. Even though I don't feel guilty of eating it because it's not a recurring thing and I don't gain weight, like I'm okay, 193 pounds, 6'1", it's good. But I don't want to rely on that kind of thing, So what would you advise me to eat? That's not like sweet. That's the hard part. Finding something that's not sweet that actually you want to eat it after eating a really high protein dense meal.
It is difficult. I guess the bigger question as well is that you went down to 175 pounds in March, but if you're 193 now, you're not doing a bad job of gaining weight. Like you're gaining pretty fast, and so
it's the ice cream.
Well, it's all down to the ice cream. So the other thing to bear in mind is if you're looking to gain muscle, remember that muscle is very rate limited. So Lyle McDonald and Alan Aragon have slightly different kind of tables for how much weight can be gained based on the data. So how much muscle can be gained per month, depending on your training age, and it's really
33.
30. Oh, so no, in terms of your how many
Age,
years
33 years. Well, I cannot say years because it's very sporadic. There's something that happens to me that I don't know if I'm attracting it. Hopefully I'm not. But every time that I go to the gym for 5 months, something changes that. It's either I get ill and I stop going for the gym like for 1 week, so I lose the habit, or I don't know, man. Something changes in my life that for some reason I stop going. I don't know if it's an excuse. I think it is, but that's why I wouldn't say I've been lifting for 10 years. I've been going to the gym for 10 years, but not regularly,
Yeah. Well,
but I go at least 3 times a week when I go.
So let's say, looking at these tables here, we've got if someone's intermediate, you can really expect to gain 0.5 to 1% of your total body weight per month. In terms of like if that's going to be lean muscle gain. So
wow, that's so little.
It's so slow. So at 193 pounds, like if you're gaining much
maybe
more
2
than,
pounds, right?
Yeah, if you're gaining more than 2 pounds a month, it's going to most likely be fat. If if you've been training for 2 years, that could be a pound a month. If you're training for 4 or more years, it might be 2 or 3 pounds a year. So when you see advanced bodybuilders, sometimes you see their progress photos year to year, and it's like, whoa, I can barely tell the difference.
See it.
And they've been busting their ass. They've been taking all the drugs and hammering it, and they're maybe just squeezing out a few grams of muscle gain each year. So there is definitely a kind of curve to that. And I would say if you're gaining more than that, you're not speeding up the muscle gain, but also you're causing more work for yourself in the future when you then have to diet down. So my approach would be for anyone listening, if let's say the average person listening might be say 15% body fat, they've got a bit of muscle but they want to continue gaining. I would say get as lean as you can to begin with. Get like super shredded, and then you've given yourself a bit of wiggle room. Then you can gradually step up the calories over time, and you can maintain your post-diet condition within a stone's throw. You can pretty much be abs lean for the rest of your life if you just really gradually turn up the calories and just aim for 100 grams a week, or maybe even less over time. And eventually...
So I would have to count calories, right?
In the initial phase, to get used to the... It's not fun, and luckily you don't have to count calories long term. And what I have a lot of my clients do is they've built up some experience counting calories, they know roughly what they're at, and then I say, okay, now let's stop tracking 1 day a week, and then 3 days a week, and eventually they're only tracking maybe once every couple of weeks, just 1 day, just to check that they've not kind of gone way off course.
I never thought about that in that way, but I won't count calories. I've more or less learned how much I should eat to keep my body weight. And what you said is actually revealing, at least to me, when you said like after you eat, just add that extra thing that you could eat afterwards. After you said that, I'm like, okay, that's what I've been doing in the last 2 months. And that's why I've been able to like gain back my weight, almost 15 pounds.
Intuitively doing it.
Yeah. So I've just been doing that. And of course, I added a little bit more of carbohydrates, which I didn't used to eat that much. Maybe I should be eating corn because that's not a good, it's
fine.
Yeah, but they're better. I think they're better sources because you eat the corn and you know what happens when you eat it. Your body just say, I don't need this.
Yeah.
And you can just grow a corn tree out of your waste. So no, man, nah. So I just need better carbohydrates that taste really good. The thing is that most of the things that I have at my disposal, it's either a lot of sugar or it has wheat. I don't like eating wheat, flour and stuff like that. Things that I don't eat bread. I love bread, but I just don't eat it. Unless that's like the only thing I have at my disposal. But one of the things that I've noticed from countries that have more advanced countries, to say the least, is that you have more variety in the supermarket and way more conscious people of more self-conscious in regards to health and fitness than the places where I live right now in the Dominican Republic. Even though you have more fat people, still you are more in tune with what is healthy and not. The thing is that most of you guys just ignore it. So when I go to the supermarket, everything is processed food and Cheerios and bright colored boxes, and the vegan, let's say, area is like a little corner in the supermarket. We don't have vegan supermarkets here. Now veganism is starting to grow here, and I prefer to buy vegan food than, for example, buying the bullshit that I see in those boxed colored boxes. So it's harder. It's harder here to find really good carbohydrate that's not filled with sugar. So that's the thing that I struggle the most: gaining weight without eating bullshit, man. And I don't want to be drinking dairy every day, like milk and stuff like that. Although I enjoy the ice cream, I don't want to become dependent on eating ice cream every day. So maybe I'll have to eat bread once again. Fuck.
Yeah, it's a hard one. The other way to do it would be stepping up your appetite. And
how?
So that, I mean, the main two things would be increasing training volume and getting leaner, and then that's
more.
That.
I go to the gym like at least 3 times a week. I mean, almost every week is like from Monday to Friday.
in that case, it's probably not. I mean, there's no point kind of derailing your programming just to increase your appetite. But it's you know, I
Maybe
I would
I'm just being anxious and trying to get results faster, right? Because
that's
15
my
pounds in
thinking.
2 months, it's not bad.
It's very in fact, I wouldn't want you gaining at that
More.
rate for any longer, because if you continue at £7 a month, like within 6 months you're going to be super fat. So
I don't want that.
yeah, so I would it sounds like what you're doing is working, and I'd say just stay the
Keep
course.
doing it, right? Well, my man, thank you for your time. I enjoyed this. It was 1 hour and a half conversation without the blackout. So thank you for sticking around. I enjoyed this conversation. Hopefully we can
Me
have
too,
more of
man.
these. It's
I
fun
would
to
love
talk
to.
with you. You're so
you.
smart.
I don't know about that, but I appreciate it, man. This
Okay,
was
it feels
a
that
lot
you're
of
so
fun.
smart.
It's the accent, I'm telling you. This is
It's just the accent.
yeah. Well, someone who I think you would probably get a lot more wisdom from is Johnny, my business partner. He's kind
Oh,
of the
is he on Twitter too?
he's not on Twitter actually, but he's the numbers guy. He's the kind of the brains behind Propane Fitness. I'm just
The pretty face.
the pretty face, yeah. So he's very much more expert on paid marketing, funnel marketing, ads, all that kind of stuff. But he's also obviously very metric focused powerlifter. So I think you'd get a very good angle from him as well if you're interested for another
Beautiful.
victim.
Another victim for my podcast, which I still need to name it. I'll just call it, now that I think about it, I'll always start the podcast without a name. So I just call it Jose Rosado Podcast. I think it's so dumb that it's interesting to say it like that. So, Yusef, thank you so much, man. Where can people find you so they can follow you on Twitter, on Instagram, on
Yeah,
your
so
newsletters?
So on the mistaken all social media platforms, if you just search Propane Fitness, so that's propane as in the gas, and particularly we're active on YouTube and Twitter at the moment, but we do have Instagram too. The website is propanefitness.com, and if you go to propanefitness.com/JR, we have a special gift for you if you are a online coach looking, or if you're a coach looking to move online. We will help you out. We have a free video just for you guys.
Beautiful, man. I will start doing that every time I get invited into a podcast. I'll start self-promoting more. I never do it. I need to learn from you from that. So, Yusef, thank you so much for this conversation. I enjoyed it very much. I'll put into practice everything you told me about in regards to gaining weight. And the only thing I won't put into practice is getting leaner, because I don't look really good when I'm lean. It's like, nah, man.
Oh, really?
So long limbs. Look, right now I have like 15 inches of arm, more or less. Anything less than that and my height, and I just look like I don't know, like a toothpick or something like that.
Really?
I don't like it.
That's the problem with being 6'3".
6'2", 6'2".
6'2".
For years I thought I was 6'3", but then I got like 2 months ago for COVID.
Because your hair.
I think it's hair, yeah. That's why I'm using a hat right now, because I haven't gone to the barber shop. But besides that, I'll put into practice everything you told me, because it's revealing, at least to me, hopefully for the listeners. And you're such a smart guy, man. I enjoyed this conversation, and I'll have to promote you more. Hey, follow this guy. Follow
very
Yusef.
much appreciate it.
Thank you so much for coming to the unnamed podcast of Rosado.
Thank you.